And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, the Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. Gator Bytes, the week of Tennessee, and a new sponsor, right? Coming to Gator Bytes.
George Moore. Yeah, George Moore's my people, man. George Moore Chevrolet. Y'all know what to do. We don't need to read anything about them. Y'all know they're a Chevy dealer.
Mm-hmm. Been around forever.
Go see them. Yeah. No, always welcome Justin Moore and George Moore in everything I do.
Need I say more?
Need you say more? I don't even know if that's their tagline anymore.
I love that slogan back in the day. That was good stuff. Well, no, we certainly welcome them on board to Gator Bytes. All right, quick review of last week. The only thing I'll say is...
With McNeese?
Yeah, McNeese, yeah. Denny, if that would have been 31-13, I think people would have been up in arms. Florida had an inferior opponent, beat them into the ground, and it made it look like an inferior opponent. So from that standpoint, last Saturday was positive.
It's like you have to be so careful with your emotions with this because Walker, my youngest, and I were watching that game Saturday, and there came a time where I looked at him and went, they're not that bad. Like, they've got some weapons, they've got some things, and then it's like, oh, wait, they're playing McNeese State. But at the same time, like, I think we're all just waiting to see how organized they look and how this whole thing plays out. Like, I don't think Florida fans at this point have given up on Napier, but I think they are looking for a reason to believe, right? And for that reason, I think this is a huge game. I think they needed that McNeese State. They needed to get a little bit of confidence. More than anything, they needed just, and I know this sounds basic, and it's not a slap to coaches because this is everywhere. How do we line up? Where do we line up? What's our communication look like in a game atmosphere? Like, who's communicating? Are we communicating soon enough? Are we communicating loud enough? All that kind of stuff. And so I think they got that under their belt the first couple games. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to make a pick later. I don't even know what it's going to be for me. But I did get a little bit of confidence in their skill set, in their talent after watching. And when you do realize that Utah did not beat them up and down the field physically or skill-wise, that was the problem. That was the worry coming in this year, right? So I think they're a little better skill-wise than what I thought they were. And so I'm interested in this game on Saturday.
Now, let me ask you this.
They do have a chance.
With you at 6 points, quarterback training, you know some of the inner workings of some of these programs. You have friends in the recruiting world, certainly. Jeremy Pruitt left a mess in Knoxville that Josh Heupel inherited.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen, you could argue, left less of a mess in Gainesville, although albeit it was still a mess, that Billy Napier inherited. To me, tomorrow night's going to be very interesting. Now, granted, Heupel's a year ahead. Heupel's in year 3, Napier's in year 2, but I will remind you, Heupel in year 2 had Tennessee number 1 in the country at the end of October last year. Why has Heupel been able to turn things around in Knoxville after the mess that Jeremy Pruitt left, and Napier to this point has not been able to do that in Gainesville?
I think you got to be careful with that, though. There was a time not that long ago that if somebody hadn't thrown a shoe, then Dan Mullen would have gotten a lifetime contract, right? So I think you got to wait this thing out a little bit both ways.
Well, then isn't that even more indicting? Because
because what I'm saying is let's not crown Heupel until he gets a couple of these seasons, and it's not a knock on Heupel.
It's pretty good after 2.5 years.
Again, wasn't Dan in the same boat?
Yeah,
wasn't that the exact same thing?
He was.
And if all of a sudden they don't throw that shoe, they may be playing in the semifinals. They may be playing in the playoffs. This isn't a knock on Heupel. I'm just saying things can change really, really quickly in this game. Look at Clemson right now. Like, there was a time that we didn't think Florida State would ever be able to compete with Clemson again. 2 years later, they're going to be favored.
All right, but back to the point. And you're right. You are right. You make a valid point there because you don't want to crown somebody before it's too or when it's too early.
And you don't want to bury somebody too early.
Agreed. But for the here and now, on September, 15th, 2023, the job that Heupel's done in Knoxville cleaning up Jeremy Pruitt's mess has been pretty impressive. And Billy, to this point, has not been able to necessarily match that in Gainesville.
Well, if you look at their signature wins, Heupel's Alabama.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that carries so much weight because that's what When I think of Tennessee last year, I only think of Alabama and them carrying the goalposts out. And I was at the Georgia game where Georgia literally slapped them around the field. Like, they could do nothing with Georgia. But I think of Heupel, I think of that Alabama game, how exciting it was, and the offense that they played, right? And I think that also helps you when you're talking about coaches is how much fun are they to watch, and they were fun to watch. I don't know about this team. I haven't watched much Tennessee football thus far. I don't know about Joe Milton. I don't know what Joe Milton does in game. Joe Milton is the most talented quarterback maybe on the face of the planet right now.
You know, to that point, back when I was working for Gridiron Now, they sent me to the Under Armour camp in Orlando. Yeah. And there was a kid there named Joe Milton who had just recently committed to Michigan. This is years ago. Yeah. This is like 2017. I mean, it was 18. It's a long time ago. And I remember it was at a high school in Winter Garden or somewhere in the Orlando area. And Joe Milton's out there, and that guy's throwing the ball 70 yards in the air. It's
effortless.
Nothing.
Effortlessly.
At 17 years of age. Now, obviously, things did not work out at Michigan. He lost his job to Hendon Hooker in Knoxville. He's waited his turn, and now he's going to be in the swamp tomorrow night. I mean, I know you say you're not sure, but just Milton as a player, what's your thought on him?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of calls about Milton the last couple of weeks, just like evaluation-wise. I've never personally seen Joe Milton throw. Like, I've never, as weird as that is, because I feel like I've seen everybody, I've never watched him throw. But when you can watch somebody on TV and you do what I do and it pops out like, holy cow, yeah, that tells you something. I don't know why he keeps losing the job. I don't know if it's just bad luck and there's been some really good guys that's come through, or if there's something missing, right? If there's something that in that game time atmosphere is missing. I have no idea. But you have to cover those receivers 80 yards down the field. You have to. And that is a huge advantage for the offense when you have to do that. It creates so much intermediate space. He can throw a ball, and I just said this on the drill. People say, how far can Joe Milton throw the ball? There's not an answer to that. He can throw it as far as he needs to throw a ball. He'll never need to throw it more than 100 yards.
Yeah.
Right? Never.
Like I said,
but if he wants to throw at 80, he can throw at 80.
I saw him throw at 70, and he was 17 years old.
Yeah, it's impressive, man. It's crazy. He's fun to watch, too. I don't know that – I think he's got a strong enough arm, and he's gotten by with that I think his anticipation is still trying to catch up with the game. These guys with strong arms, like, they can wait till the last second, right? But when you get to that level, and especially at the next level, you have to have the anticipation. I think he's still trying to work on that a little bit, which, by the way, is where I think Graham Mertz is really good at. So I think this is a really this is an interesting matchup this week.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can log on to their website by going to se-ortho.com, and you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good doctor, Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. All right, if you're Austin Armstrong.
Real quick, let me ask something real quick. Yeah. How big is Joe Milton?
I'd have to I haven't seen him in 5 years. I'd have to look it up.
I'm just curious. Go ahead. I'm going to look it up.
Well, while we get that, this is kind of about Joe Milton. If you're Austin Armstrong and you're the Gator defense, the D coordinator, the coaching staff over there, how do you go about slowing down Heupel's offense? That offense is unique. They'll complete a 25-yard play, and they're snapping the ball 12 seconds later. It's insane what they do. What does Florida need to do to slow them down?
A couple things. One, Joe Milton's 6'5", 236.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
That's a big dude. There's two ways you play it. There's the Georgia way. We have the athletes. We're gonna press you. We're gonna abuse you at the line of scrimmage. We're gonna make you hold the ball. We're gonna hope we get home before you can get rid of the ball. If you don't have the athletes to do that, then you got to do the exact opposite, I think, which is you got to keep everything in front of you, which is frustrating to watch as a fan because it's the old bend but don't break, right? Is you got to keep everything in front of you. You got to time up your blitzes. You still got to try to get pressure, but you're very reliant on that front four to create early throws and not let Joe Milton sit back there and people just run through windows the whole time. I think Florida will try the first one. And if they're not successful at that, then we may have some issues in Gainesville.
And it's going to be pretty obvious if they're not successful.
Correct.
It's going to be a 60-yard bomb that they're going to give up.
Yeah, or it could be just a series of crossing routes because Florida's guys can't keep up. And I don't know.
25 yards
right.
of play.
Yeah, I have no idea. But that's the two ways, and I think that's the interesting thing that Florida has to decide, because I'm sure they're practicing a little bit of both, but the mentality should be, and probably will be, we're going to come out of this thing aggressive, right? We're going to press man, maybe play a little bit of man free, man two, and we're going to bring the house occasionally.
See, the problem this year compared to last year, I think Florida could match score for score with Tennessee last year. Tennessee scored last year. Anthony Richardson kept up with them. If Tennessee scores at that same rate this year, I have my doubts as to whether Graham Mertz can keep up with them.
Yeah, even last year, though, I mean, listen, Ant had an historic game against them, but it was a miracle they were still in that thing.
Yeah, they recovered the onside kick and had a ball into the end zone. But at the end of the day, they had a ball in the air as time expired that could have potentially tied or won the game.
At Tennessee.
At Tennessee.
Yeah. And are we sure? Like, are we sure that this offense isn't more explosive than last year?
Well, I mean, I like Ricky Pearsall. You're going to rely on freshmen. Obviously, Wilson. They don't have the names. I mean, Xavier Henderson, Justin Shorter, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think that
talent-wise, I think it is more explosive, but these guys are so young.
You don't have the quarterback that can take off and go for 8.
Correct.
And this isn't an Anthony Richardson plug. Y'all stay off. I know he's not a Gator.
And it was experienced, like not super experienced, but he had at least played ball before. These true freshmen are.
But I guess
you don't have the offensive line.
I guess
either.
what my point is, though, like I think they have enough weapons right now that they can game plan something. Right, where last year it was like, okay, if this guy's covered, or they do this, then you just got to take off. Like that was kind of the game plan, or you got to make something happen. As long as they stay in the flow and ahead of the chains, and that's what got them week 1. Like I think that these guys have put together decent game plans. They just haven't been able to execute them because they keep making stupid mistakes.
The penalties. Now at least this game's at home, so you have that in the swamp. By the way, I saw a crazy stat. I don't know if you saw this or not. We know Tennessee hasn't won at Florida Field in 20 years, right, since 2003. Right. Do you know how many times the Tennessee Volunteers have won a football game in Gainesville in the history of their program?
I think I heard that was like 6 or 7.
5.
5, yeah.
They've won 5 times.
That is crazy.
Now, granted, it wasn't an every year
thing. Do y'all
thing.
think that means anything, though?
No, I was just shocked.
I think
no, I'm with you.
I think it does.
Why?
I don't know about this particular game. But you can't tell me that doesn't have a mental effect.
The
on
recent
Tennessee
success, though, with that locker room, because that's like the Kentucky thing, right? That Florida had beaten Kentucky some crazy amount of times, and then one Kentucky team beats them, and now all of a sudden it feels like Florida can't beat Kentucky,
right?
And if they do, they get lucky.
I think it's a stat for more of the media to talk about.
I agree. I think it's interesting. It's super interesting. It defies logic, but I don't know that it plays in this locker room.
You get a new coach in the program that isn't part of that. But, like, it was a part of Butch Jones, right? Because he had 2 of those devastating losses, and, like, that was part of his
got
thing.
you.
And I think that mentally got in his program.
Well, I think the majority of these kids that commit to these programs were not fans growing up. They have no idea.
They're all about the NIL, who can get me to the league. Although Tennessee has lost some heartbreakers in Gainesville with Antonio Callaway and Tyree Cleveland and, Lawrence Wright committing almost a homicide on Joey Kent in the mid-'90s, and Doring going off in the second half. I mean, there's been some really...
And Dallas Baker.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some good games for Florida. No question about that. And then the night atmosphere. I mean, look, the swamp is still the swamp. Now, maybe it hasn't been what it was in years past, but the swamp is a big deal at night. We'll see how Joe Milton reacts to that.
I think it's been every bit what it's been in years past.
Like I guess I'm referring to maybe last year.
I've been the last couple of years to games at the Swamp, and it has been as loud and as electric as it has ever been. It's just they had
back to 1993. With
listen,
Florida State.
Man, those teams gave you more to cheer for.
Yeah,
like you were loud the entire time because they were scoring, and these teams don't. But man, I'm not the fan base at Florida, and I know people are going to say, but the students aren't as, and I get all that. But that place is still a serious place to play. It's just they need a team to match that intensity.
Sure.
They need a team to put points on the board and match that intensity, and all of a sudden they are still one of the top 5 venues in college football.
How big a game is this? Back to the original topic. Look, he's not in trouble. He better not be in trouble. Gator fans, you're ridiculous if you think he's in trouble. But the whole Heupel Napier aspect of it, how big is this for Billy Napier tomorrow?
I think it's huge. I think it's the biggest game he's coached at Florida. Easily. I don't think it's for reasons that like he's in trouble or not. I think it's well, okay, hold on. Back up. We got 3 Gator fans in here.
I'm an objective broadcast journalist.
If all of a sudden we watch this game tomorrow night and there's 5 offsides and there's stupid special teams penalties and we don't get a play in on, that's a problem. That's a problem.
I could not agree more.
And here's what
if it's a clean game, regardless of result, there's not a problem. But if all of a sudden you go out there and there's these 50 staff members and we got 2 number 3s out there again.
I could not agree with
Here's
that
what
more.
I'm telling you, and I know what's going to happen. Tennessee wins that game by 2 touchdowns or more tomorrow. Guess what game's on ESPN right after it?
What is that?
Colorado and Colorado State. And then the Dion factor comes in. And I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm telling you.
You forgot the detail, too, that in between games when they go to the studio, it'll be Dan Mullen talking about both games.
Yeah. So you got Florida, Tennessee, followed by Colorado, Colorado State. And I know they're telling
Colorado State's what time?
10 o'clock. It's right after Florida.
So they went from a 10 a.m. game to a 10 p.m. game?
Yeah. Well,
they played at 10 a.m. last week,
because the Battle of Colorado. And game day's there. Game day is at Colorado, Colorado State, which is absolutely insane. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but you already hear rumors. You hear about in College Station. I know they're talking about it in Aggie Land because Jimbo's struggling out there. There is going to be an SEC team that's going to hire Deion Sanders.
It's not. Listen, Florida's not looking for a coach.
No, I know they're not. But we're not.
I don't even want to put this in the atmosphere.
Right? No. We're not talking to the administration. We're not talking to the team. Although I hope they watch, and if they do, welcome to Gator Bytes. We're talking to Gator fans, and the Gator fans we're talking to, if they see Napier struggle and they see Deion beat the crap out of Colorado State to go 3-0, you can rest assured people watching this right now and listening to this are going to start having that thought.
Okay.
Whether that means anything or not, those are the people we're talking to.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, people know who Deion is, and there's the popularity.
Well, people see what he's doing, and I mean,
well, listen,
he's 2-0, y'all. He's 2-0.
Just imagine a world where Deion hypothetically is the coach of Florida. Again, Billy Napier is in no trouble.
Are we doing this?
We're simply playing a game here.
I don't like this game.
The 5 stars that would. All right, Deion's the coach of A&M. Jimbo's gone. They hired Deion. What kind of players does he bring to the SEC?
Listen. I love Deion. I love what he's doing. I've watched both games. I love watching Travis Hunter. I love watching Shador. I love everything he's doing.
Shador Sanders might win the Heisman Trophy.
All I'm saying, y'all, is this 2 games.
Agreed.
There's been a lot of people start out 2-0 that at the end of the year, you're like, oh, what happened? And that won't be the case with Deion, but
they may very well be the flavor of the month. When's the last time game day went to Gainesville?
Hold on. Let me finish here because we're talking about coaches who have won championships. We're talking about Jimbo Fisher, who's got a national championship.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
A&M fans are furious.
Right. I understand that. But on the other side, you're talking about a guy who's won 2 games.
Agreed.
2 Division I, whatever we are, BCS games. Look how far back I'm going.
BCS?
Yeah, Power 5.
Said
but
BCS.
My bad. Power 5.
Well, let me take
like
the opposite of that. He was just the Jackson State coach. Oh, it's just Jackson State. In Colorado, a Power 5 team says, heck,
he's beat TCU and Nebraska. He has not gone through and beaten Alabama and Georgia. And y'all, don't hate on me for this. I love Deion. I love what he's doing. I am dialed in. I'm pulling for them like every week that they don't play one of our guys. Right? But just pump the brakes for a second on this.
Well, no, wait a minute.
If you want to talk about Jimbo being in trouble, okay, that's a fact.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Hold on. And again, now, if we're proclaiming love for people, I love Billy Napier. But if you're going to use the logic that Deion's only won 2 games, who did Billy beat in his time in Louisiana?
You just said we were taking this to Texas A&M.
Okay. Well, all right. I mean, that's different because Jimbo's won a title. But you can't give me, he's only won TCU and Nebraska. I mean, who did Brian Kelly beat when he was at Central Michigan before he got the Cincinnati job? I mean, you can do that all over the place.
He won at Cincinnati. Continued to win at Cincinnati, then went to Notre Dame, won games.
Right,
and I said LSU, like there's a whole thing. He may turn into that, Hack. He may turn into that. Urban Meyer, was at Utah before he came to Florida, and everybody knew.
Who did he beat at Bowling Green?
But
and Utah gave him a chance.
You're talking about history of guys. We're talking about 2 games.
Yeah.
You're bringing up guys.
Urban was only at Bowling Green for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Then he's at Utah for what?
2 years.
Right, years, not games. Years. If Deion comes out of this thing and he goes 10-2 this year and next year he's in a BCS bowl, why do I keep doing that?
I don't know. That's a long time
ago. I don't know. If he's at New Year's Eve,
maybe I've flustered you a little bit.
No, if he's that, then listen, man, go throw the bank at him because he's a walking billboard for your program. Like, go throw the bank.
Did you see what Colorado made last week revenue was? Made like $18 million in one weekend.
Again, not a hater. I'm just saying, man, let's let this dude have a season.
I don't disagree with you, but I will say, back to something you said earlier, if Florida loses this game because they get delay of game penalties and illegal formation, when I watch Colorado, that stuff doesn't happen. I will say that.
That's why I said earlier, like if they lose this game, how they lose this game makes this the biggest game that Billy Napier probably has ever coached in.
You're right. It's only 2 games.
Now,
there's a lot of ball.
I will say this for both of y'all.
And it's a bad comparison for Napier. I should have drafted more to Texas A&M because I got people that cover the A&M program that are buddies of mine, and I can tell you they're at least talking about that out there.
Well, I mean, I will defend this. If something happened and my favorite team had a coaching opening, yeah, man, they better call Dion.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, right now, we're going into week 3. We're not going into week 10. We're going into week 3 of this man's second year.
Right.
Now's not the time.
You know, and if we're playing in a hypothetical world, and we'll get back to reality in a moment, but Dion's got a little thing with Florida State. They're not really on the same page right now. And wouldn't it be the ultimate? I don't think
Dion and Florida State have been on the same page for decades.
Wouldn't it be the ultimate if prime time goes to Gainesville to coach against them?
I don't think it's a valid point in terms of Florida needs to go hire Dion, but I do think it's a valid point to ask the question, how come Dion in his first season is getting his team to play clean, organized football and Billy Napier's not? I think that's fair.
That is very fair.
That is fair.
No, and that's what I was saying. Like
that's not to make the point of you got to switch right now.
And there's people listening right now that are like, man, I can't believe that all we're asking out of our coach is clean football. But there's a lot that goes into that, and that's why Dion's getting a lot of credit for that. I mean, you're talking about you're getting a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds on the same page quickly. That's not easy. And communication is key and things like
60 new players.
Right.
It's basically an expansion team.
Right, which that is very impressive about Dion. I think I know Billy Napier well enough to know that guy is a super organized guy. And when we talk about those penalties, and as mad as it makes us, it drives him even crazier. Now, he has a chance to fix it. We don't.
Right. And I hope this is not a conversation moving forward. If Billy goes out there and beats Tennessee on Saturday night, then this is a completely worthless conversation. But if these losses accumulate, and again, I was the guy that preached patience. Yet I watched Dion in a Power 5 who has beaten 2 Power 5 programs in his first 2 games, one of which played for a national championship last year. They're not talking about patience at Colorado. They're talking about let's get college game day out here and let's go do something, which is exactly what they're doing.
Well, that's the beauty of Dion, too. I mean, the beauty of Dion is Dion brings Dion everywhere. He is completely bought into this Coach Prime thing, and he has made this all what his identity is, which most former greats never do that. Most former greats hang on to what they were good at. Dion is, in a lot of ways, like he's you look at this and he's cocky and he's brash, but he's also very selfless in this because this man could be sitting on a beach somewhere just chilling.
Yeah.
Right?
And I know
he's taken a lot.
He's got that foot problem and he's just powering through it.
Yeah, there's a lot about this man that you got to respect.
Have you ever met him?
I have.
Okay. I want to find out about that because...
No, you don't. It was just brief.
Oh, it was brief?
Yeah.
Well, my interaction was brief, but it was at the Under Armour All-American game 2 years in a row in Orlando, and I went down to cover that. No cameras, just print media was there at the practices, so it's not like Dion was posing for the cameras. I mean, he was getting after it with these guys. He was teaching them. He loves coaching, so it does not surprise me that he's having the success that he has, because I saw it 7-8 years ago when he was getting with these guys and really getting after them in the practices for an all-star game.
There are guys that just have this energy. We have this saying with 6 Points of your energy introduces you long before you ever speak. And there's guys that just walk up and they have this energy about them. Austin Reed at Western Kentucky's one. And it just makes you sit up a little bit.
They got a big game tomorrow.
Right? Just makes you sit up and go, okay, what's this dude about to say? Like, he's walking to me with a purpose. You can tell there's conviction and he's passionate about everything he's doing. That's Dion.
Yeah.
And that stuff plays, right? That stuff plays, especially with 18 to 23-year-olds. Saban has inherited that energy because of who he is. That's the way that Napier has to go. Kirby has that energy. Kirby, you walk in, Kirby is a politician. Kirby had met me one time, remember my name, remember my wife's name, remember my kids' names, everything, right? Like, there's just that politician energy, like, excited, I want to be around this guy, and Dion's got that, right? you can have it with success, though. Like if Napier all of a sudden rolls off 5 in a row, Florida's recruiting class is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Right?
look.
We're talking about something completely different. I realize Georgia's in that 5 in a row. I was just saying it, right? All I'm saying is let this play out.
Agreed. And if Napier wins tomorrow night, the conversation has changed.
Well, if you want to make the conversation about Texas A&M, make it about Texas A&M. If you want to make the conversation about
Missouri.
a number of other ones, make it about that. But the conversation should not be about Florida right now with any coaching changes.
By the way, real quick, if Missouri, I was having this conversation on the air. If Missouri comes open, Missouri's a better job than Colorado, right? I mean,
No.
if you're Missouri, it's not.
I think
In the
that's
Southeastern
I think
Conference?
that's the same job.
Yeah.
And I
One's
think
in the
Colorado's
SEC,
cooler.
one's not.
I mean, if that's the only thing you're going by, I
Yep.
think you recruit better to Colorado.
Yeah, because if you're Missouri and
Listen, money's not going to be an issue to Colorado right now. Deion's bringing in local revenue that they ain't got to share.
right.
Like Deion's taking the NFL model right now.
Well, let's get back to reality. And reality is the games tomorrow. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, they're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. Graham, real quick, before we do the picks, did you want to say something about Deion?
Oh, I was just saying that it's not even just isolated Deion, but he's just one of the coaches, and Heupel in year 2 last year was one of the coaches. I just think it's fair without calling for his job. I think you're allowed to say this stuff without calling for Billy Napier's job. How come these coaches are getting their teams early on with a bunch of new players and a bunch of new transfers to play organized football, and Billy Napier's not? That's my issue.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Because
We just don't know the inner workings
Talent,
of what everybody
building the
walked
roster,
into.
all of that. I understand that's going to take time. I understand that Billy has had to fix a lot of foundational issues within the program. I think he's doing a good job of that. But at the same time, I need you to not have your offensive lineman fall starting on 3rd and 1.
And granted,
those are all comments though that you would be making if Deion wasn't a thing.
Right.
That's
Agreed.
my point.
And granted, that was 2 weeks ago.
But it's highlighted more when someone like that is doing it better.
And we
I
can't keep
understand.
harping on that. They eliminated those last week, and I know it sucked against Utah, but we'll see what happens against Tennessee if they've cleaned that up against a Power 5 opponent. All right, tomorrow, it's a really good day of college football. The Southeastern Conference gets underway with conference games. LSU goes to Starkville to play Mississippi State. LSU going to have problems in Starkville? Mississippi State have a chance there?
Yeah, I think Mississippi State has a chance. I mean, I obviously think LSU is going to win, but I love Will Rogers. I think he is a really good football player.
That was a nice win for Mississippi State last week, coming back to beat Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, the odds are obviously LSU is going to win that game, but I think that's one of those that's probably going to be worth watching deep into the game.
Kansas State goes to Missouri, bragging rights on the line there. Alabama in Tampa tomorrow night against South Florida. That's just a bad draw right there. You get an angry Alabama team coming in.
Yeah, didn't Florida do this a couple years ago? Play the game in Tampa as well, like play at USF.
Yes. Remember Emory and Anthony were like switching drives?
Yeah, clearly a recruiting move here on Alabama, and it's probably at the right time.
Ant had the hamstring after that crazy run.
Yeah,
He broke like 70 tackles.
It's a big game for the Southeastern Conference tomorrow. Ole Miss is going to beat Georgia Tech, and they need to beat Georgia Tech because the ACC has dominated the SEC early in the season.
Listen, man, have you watched Georgia Tech?
I have. Well, I watched them against Louisville. They can score.
Yeah, I think they're doing some good things.
They're not
Ole
gonna
Miss
beat
does
Ole
need to-
Miss, right?
I mean, Tulane played them without their best player. Played them pretty good for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I've watched Georgia Tech long enough because that's where and I don't want to get into Jeff right now, but that's where he was, and like they have taken some pretty big strides. I don't think they're going to beat Ole Miss, but I don't think this is a chalk it up. They're going to lose by. Ole Miss and Georgia Tech played 3 years ago. It looked like a JV team playing a varsity team. That's not going to be the case, I guess is what I'm saying.
SEC needs to win some of these non-conference games tomorrow. They've struggled out of the gate. Vandy goes to UNLV. That'll probably be tough. We'll see. BYU, Arkansas, battle of 2-0 teams, the Hogs and the Cougars. Again, I don't know a lot about BYU other than the fact they're 2-0 and they're going to 2-0 Arkansas. And then the two big ones will begin in Athens, South Carolina, Georgia. Georgia right now is a 27.5-point favorite. Does South Carolina hang around in that game for a little bit?
I don't know. I don't think so. Spencer's good, man. Spencer's good. He can spin it as well as anybody, but I don't
South
think
Carolina
so.
was in the game with North Carolina for a while. They beat Furman. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared last week. They're 1-1. They're a 4-touchdown dog tomorrow.
I think what everybody understands about Georgia is they've shown nothing yet. Right? I mean, they've played 2 opponents they didn't need to show anything. We don't even know what Georgia's horsepower is. We've seen very little of Brock Bowers, really. We've seen very little of the downfield passing game.
It is Carson Beck's biggest test to date.
Yeah, and so the greedy part of me, because of Carson, hopes it's not even a game, because I think they do unleash some of that. And I think Carson's getting pretty comfortable, and he made a couple throws last week that shows you how talented he is. But, I mean, South Carolina's done it in the past. South Carolina always seems to play Georgia good when you least expect it.
All right, let's get to Tennessee and Florida, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. You'll hear the game on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. The Volunteers have not won in Gainesville in 20 years, going back to 2003.
That's crazy.
And, in fact, they've only won 5 times ever at the University of Florida. Having said that, I just think Tennessee's the better football team. I think the fact that it's in Gainesville gives the Gators a fighting chance, but I'm going to take Tennessee to win the game.
What's the line?
It was Tennessee by 7. Let's see if that's come down. Tennessee 6. Yeah, it's come down a little bit. 6-point favorite. I had Barrett Salih of CBSSports.com on Hacker After Dark. He thinks Tennessee by 20. He thinks Tennessee's going to boat race Florida.
Really?
I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think Florida's in the game, but I just think talent's going to win out in the fourth quarter. I don't think the Gator defense is going to be able to stop Tennessee's offense as much as the Vol defense will be able to stop the Gators.
At this point in the week, I'm normally locked in. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It's
about
weird.
this
It's
game.
Tennessee-Florida week.
I'm not trying to get out of picking it. I'm just I have no idea what to expect from either team.
Well, Tennessee struggled with Austin Peay a little bit last week in the first half. They handled Virginia pretty good in week 1, so we still don't really know much about them. It's clearly their toughest test. Florida, under that logic, is more tested, having already played Utah.
In fact, I'm going to say this, and y'all can call me homers if you want to. That's fine. I can see Florida winning this game tomorrow night.
I think Florida is going to win.
Yeah,
so I'm not calling you a homer at all on that one.
Okay, I can see them winning. I can see the combination of, okay, we got this bad taste in our mouth from Utah, and what gets me is this is the same thought process I had on why they were going to beat Utah. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt one more time. I think it's a team that's got a lot to prove, and I think it's a team that cares deeply about each other and their coaching staff. I know it is. And if they can't, I'll be very disheartened if they get blown out tomorrow, because that's going to tell me a lot. And I don't expect it, but I'm just throwing that out there. I think this is a team that's got all the right motivating factors to play well. I think they have the talent to play with Tennessee. I think, right? I don't know what Graham Mertz is yet, so therefore I think they will. But if they don't, I'm going to be what's going on in Gainesville?
To me, this is like a 27-21 game late in the fourth, and Tennessee scores a touchdown with under 5 minutes to go to make it 34-21. Something like that. I think Tennessee wins by 10 points, 13 points.
I'm gonna say Florida by 4. I'm gonna say it's
you think the Gators are going to beat Tennessee? Wow.
Well, I just went through this whole thing of how I'm not sure. I just I think it's going to be.
Win.
Yeah, I think you guys look a lot more at the logo than what's in reality.
I think Joe Milton is the most overrated football player in the country,
and he's still better than Graham Mertz.
Sure, but he's not that good. This is not the Hendon Hooker.
Wait. Why are we saying that? Why are we saying that he's better than Graham Mertz?
You would take Graham Mertz over Joe Milton?
I don't know.
Correct.
I don't know.
All right. Well, here's my logic.
Skill set, no. But as far as what's been put on
Joe
the
Milton
field, I don't know.
Joe Milton is getting way too much credit for what Hendon Hooker did last year. Because he played one good game in the freaking Orange Bowl.
Who has the better wide receivers? Who has the better skill position?
Well, listen.
Tennessee's probably better across the board, and they have the more accomplished coaching staff.
My point is, almost all of these answers that you're going to ask me my answer is going to be I don't know, because we're 2 games into the season. We've got a Tennessee team that had a ton of turnover at critical position.
Jalen Hyatt's not walking through that locker room.
That's right. Hendon Hooker is not walking through that locker room.
Wait a minute. 2 weeks ago, we were in here after Florida had 2 guys on the field wearing the same jersey number. right?
Are you not listening to what I'm saying?
That's
though?
a fair point, and I'm banking on they're going to fix that.
That's right. That's what we've been saying. Is
And if they don't fix that,
Hacker, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't
that's an
know.
extremely fair point.
I don't know what Tennessee has because, like Graham just said, they lost 2 key pieces of an offense, huge pieces.
Yeah.
I don't.
And Florida lost the number 4 pick in the draft.
Who y'all told me wasn't any good anyway.
But he was good against Tennessee.
We can't have it both ways.
He was good against Tennessee. No, look, I like the optimism. I do.
It's not even optimism. I don't know. So therefore, I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm more familiar with Florida than I am with Tennessee. If they get this, and this fixed, I think they have the talent to compete. They're playing at home, which doesn't mean a ton to me, but okay, let's go with it.
Is it fair to say that most people don't know all that much about either team, but
Yes.
Tennessee is getting an insane benefit of the doubt for what they did last
As
year?
they should.
And Florida is being talked about like they're the sisters of the poor.
That's the way it should happen. That's the way it's always happened in college football is you win, you get respect. You
Correct.
don't win, you don't get respect. But at the end of the day, all 3 of us sitting right here cannot go through the 2-deep roster with any certainty. We can't go through the 1-deep roster with any certainty of either team. I have no idea.
No, but I guess at this point, again, I like Billy. I would trust Josh Heupel over Billy Napier in a
He's
game
giving
like
you
this.
reason to.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
agree with
fair.
I'm going to
Yeah.
take the
That's
better
a fair point.
coach.
I agree.
Yep.
I'm going to take the better offense. I don't think anybody's going to argue Tennessee's got the better offense. I mean, you're going to argue that?
I don't know. Again, Hacker, I'm not saying
How
you're
can
wrong.
you not know watching 2 Tennessee games compared to 2 Florida games? I mean, did you watch Tennessee and Virginia? They went up and down
Yeah.
the field on them.
Heck,
They also struggled against Austin Peay.
Well, Florida couldn't functionally move the ball for 3 quarters against Utah, who were
that's
out
true.
2 of their best D linemen.
Hacker, you're taking this personally, and I'm telling you may be right. I'm just telling you I don't know.
I'm not taking it personally.
I'm not saying any like if you ask me who has the better offense, and I know I will answer that question, but I don't know. I need to see Joe Milton on the road in a hostile environment with people coming at him. I need to see that. I need to see who is his guy, who is Hyatt, because it's nice when you have that guy. And then I need to see, is Pearsall taking another step? Because maybe he has. Has Graham Mertz gotten more comfortable? Because maybe he has. Like, I don't know these things. Florida may get drugged, and if they do, I have major concerns. But until that happens, like I don't know enough about either team to sit here and go, Tennessee's going to win without doubt.
I just don't see a world under the lights in the swamp where they get killed.
Right,
They may
again.
lose,
That's
but
a
I'm not
dangerous
gonna
thing
get
to say, though,
I
right?
don't think they get killed. And you could say you don't know about a lot of different games. I don't know this. I don't know that. Here's what I do know. On paper, the Tennessee O-line, the Tennessee skill positions, to me, the Tennessee quarterback and the Tennessee head coach are all superior to that of Florida. And based on watching football for 40 years, or I guess remembering it for the last 33 years, I'm going to take the team that I'm going to put green check marks next to that has the entirety of offense and the coaching staff.
As
better.
you should. If you know that to be true, then that's exactly you're doing as you should.
And maybe I'm wrong. But again, Florida scored 11 points at Utah. They played a 1AA opponent last week. And if they come out and they run roughshod over Tennessee, then we're going to have a much different conversation next Friday. Then that'll be a heck of a story. But this entire offseason, Gator Nation was destroying Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz, why do we have him? This, that, and the other. And now all of a sudden, people are saying they're going to beat Tennessee, a top 10 team in Gainesville, with Graham Mertz. That's just surprising to me.
Me saying this isn't as much about Graham Mertz as it is of I just don't know. Like I don't know if Graham Mertz is any different than Joe Milton.
I actually think Graham Mertz is better than I am. He's better than what I expected. Because what I expected was awful based on everybody I talked to about Graham Mertz at Wisconsin.
It looks like
that covers the Big Ten.
It looks to me, I've never worked with Graham. I've met him a couple times. I've never worked with him. It looks to me like they've done some really good stuff with him mechanically, and he's got a better arm than what I remembered him having or thought he had. And it looks like he's got a pretty good command of what they're trying to do offensively. He can't help if people are jumping off sides or holding or things like that. So, I mean, I just think it's one of those games where it's like who makes the least mistakes.
Yeah.
Who finds themselves in 3rd and 2? And if you're Florida, can you get them in 3rd and 6? Like, that's really what we're talking about here, right? If Florida can do that for 4 quarters, yeah, I think they got a chance.
And, bend but don't break, you mentioned that earlier. I would love that. Because if this game is close late in the 4th quarter, I would take my chances with the Gators. I just think Tennessee will make one play.
Man, the problem and the reason why I keep going to line, and I know we're going long, but the reason I keep going into lining up properly, the problem is you can't let Tennessee get going fast. Like, once they get going fast, like, this lining up thing seems so simple, but it's not.
And you could blow a coverage pretty easily.
Pretty easily.
You saw that last year.
You did. And that's why I say, like, you got to get them into those critical situations of, okay, we got to slow it down because this is a big play, right? You can't let them get an early first down and then just go NASCAR on you. So that's the things that I think you got to look for tomorrow night.
And real quick, we got 60 seconds. We got to get out of here. This to me is kind of a fork in the road game, right, for Florida.
Yeah, I agree.
If they beat Tennessee, then they're better than a lot of people thought, and they might win 7 or 8 games. 2-1. If you lose and go to 1-2, I don't know. There seems to be a gigantic difference, even though it doesn't sound very big, between 2-1 and 1-2.
Well, I think it's a huge difference in Florida's world. I don't think nationally anybody cares because it's Tennessee, right? But I think in Florida's world and in Napier's world and that staff's world and the recruiting world, I think you're right. I think it's a massive game.
We'll be back to break it all down next week on Gator Bytes. For Graham Marsh and Denny Thompson, I'm the hacker Ryan Green. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists and our new
George
sponsor,
Moore Chevrolet. Go buy a car this weekend.
George Moore Chevrolet. We're back next Friday on 1010XL.com and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.